can never keep up with the taxes. Oh, how it's always been the plan to have a taxpayer pay, no doubt. Not a matter of if anymore, but when you're moving out. I said, when you're moving
Top of morning, Dan and Amy. We mentioned, talked a little bit earlier in the program about Doge, but we didn't get to the latest installment of the Illinois Doge report that are being brought to us by Chicago City Wire. The latest example of the government largesse, your state tax dollars, what you pay to the state, being used to fund the political power structure's political infrastructure. Centro de Trabajadores Unidos, United Workers Center, on the far south side. Well, east side, actually, but yeah. A nonprofit promising to, quote, build immigrant and worker power by working to advance systemic change that promotes racial, gender, and economic justice and stabilizes low immigrant...
Stop, please.
You can fill in the rest of the identitarian tripe.
You.
It's cut and paste.
Wow.
Immigrant and worker power. That's what they do at Centro de Trabajadores Unidos. In 2022, the total revenue for this nonprofit, nonprofit, right?
Sure.
1.1 million. Last year, well, this year actually, the state of Illinois appropriated $4 million in state taxpayer funds. 4x their revenue from just 3 years ago in the form of taxpayer underwriting. Of course. Well, because they're building immigrant and worker power by working to advance systemic change that promotes racial, gender, and economic justice and stabilizes low immigrant communities and communities of color.
Good job.
You thought you couldn't put a price on it? $4 million, at least for this organization. The trained by what do we mean when they say build immigrant and worker power? Well, I mean, they, for example, tell people where to hide if they're here illegally and ICE comes knocking at the door. I'm not kidding. Quoting, private areas, kitchen, break room, etc., where the workers are, ICE is not allowed to search.
Oh. Okay.
It's a handy tip if you're listening and you're here illegally. ICE will only be allowed in private areas unless they have the permission of the employer or person in charge and a valid warrant from a federal district court judge. This is how they empower communities of low-income immigrant communities and communities of color. Where does the communities of color part come in, like in terms of the actual American citizens? I don't, if they're not focused on open borders, which is what this organization is focused on, then I don't know, and you're an American, then I don't know that you're going to be getting too much support from Centro de Trabajadores Unidos. The president of the board, Maria Isabel Martinez, is an immigration lawyer who provides immigration law defense for people in this country illegally. Well, and, I'm sure she does naturalization work or other things related to immigration law as well, but I'm just saying this is the perspective. Fellow board member Artima Areola is a community organizer who works as political director for the Illinois Coalition for the Rights of Immigrants and Refugees, which is basically an open borders sanctuary city advocacy group. $4 million. Received $3 million more to renovate its 3,000 square foot office, which it received in 2014 when the building in this neighborhood fell into foreclosure. From the state's Build Illinois bond program, this organization received 3 separate $1 million grants for costs associated with building aquation and other capital improvements. for costs associated with capital improvements and for costs associated with infrastructure improvements. Boy, they've come a long way from when they were approved as a nonprofit in 2011 and their revenue was $100,000, grown up and under Governor Pritzker. Golly, I wonder why. But don't think that this is a political group masquerading as a nonprofit. Please.
No.
Please don't think that. A related story today, Chris Miller and Brad Halbrick, two of the few conservatives in the House Republican caucus at the state level, General Assembly, State House, are having a press conference on the Illinois Doge project that they're doing, trying to identify waste, fraud, and abuse like this within Illinois state government. I understand from Jeannie Ives, $1 billion has been identified so far to useless NGOs like this one. Well, they're not useless. They're very useful for political reasons to those in political power. But maybe taxpayers have a different perspective on that. Let's start there with Ted Dabrowski, President of Wirepoints, wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related. Ted, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Dan. Good morning, Amy.
The Illinois Doge project, that seems like something worthwhile. I'm glad to see that at least there's a few legislators down there that are picking up what is being laid down at the federal level and is being advanced in other states as well. I mean, even if there's not the political will to do anything about it, the least that can be done is documented to try to engineer the political will to do something about it.
Well, that's right. It's good to see Miller and Halbrook and these guys who've been great at just pointing out waste, for years. That Eastern Bloc, that small voice, but a strong voice that's, called out for watching this stuff out. And, it's also great to see Jeannie Ives, of course, put all that together with them. We need a Doge, obviously, and obviously we're not going to get the support from the administration for it, neither in Chicago nor in Illinois. But like you said, there's enough data out there, and to identify. It's amazing when I look at and I read this piece, and it's a good piece because you realize, and your readers know it, but ordinary people won't, of just how the government uses these grants and this money, taxpayer money, to fund their political goals. Especially on immigration, where we've seen not just the outright $1.5 billion spent on health care, but now this kind of money, which is just working the system. It's phenomenal, and I don't mean that in a positive way. So it's great that we're doing the Doge. We have to be ready for it, where one day maybe we can actually do it from inside the administration rather than outside of it.
Yeah, and I love the whole cut and paste, as I said, identitarian tripe that all these NGOs use. I mean, they all say the same thing. It's always for system, addressing something systemic to empower the downtrodden communities of color, gender, social justice, gender justice, economic justice. Okay, so we have a clean sweep in terms of the power structure. It's all the new Marxist Party types. You've got a lot of black politicians in office, including at the lieutenant governor level, and auditioning to be a United States senator. And yet then I look at where the money is being sent to all these NGOs, and I look at who the politicians say they are fighting for so diligently in office. And then I see this report from you over at Wirepoints about Chicago's black unemployment. And, boy, gosh, there's a real disconnect, isn't there?
There really is a big disconnect. And I would love for the black community to at least look at what their politicians say and then what's delivered to them. And of course, many of the black community vote for Democrats, but we've seen a big awakening in recent years. But yeah, it's amazing. You look at this GDP growth, which I think is the base for having the black community be successful. We looked at the growth rate of the largest 15 cities in the country, and Chicago is the worst for economic growth of the 15. And you can't have good jobs, you can't have good pay without a strong economy. And we're at the bottom, and you got the fast-growing states growing at 4 and 5 times the rate of Chicago over the last 5 years since Pritzker took over. it's phenomenal, and it's no wonder that people struggle. I mean, when you have an economy which is the worst, people aren't going to make ends meet, especially the ones at the lower income level.
Yeah, they're not going to be employed, so they can't make ends meet. Chicago also has the highest black unemployment rate among the nation's 15 biggest cities that you researched as well. I mean, it's quite something. I mean, it's not really close. The next closest big city is Phoenix, 9.8% unemployment rate among black residents of Phoenix, 12.3 Chicago's black residents.
Yeah, and it's again, we said, these guys, these people who've run this state, and you can start with, I don't know if you want to start with Daley or with Rahm or with Lightfoot and now Johnson and Pritzker, of course. They've destroyed jobs and opportunity for black Chicagoans, and we've got the anecdotal stories. I mean, I've met blacks who, I tell the story of I got a haircut in Atlanta, and a woman escaped Illinois, she said, because a black entrepreneur, she had a beauty shop, and she said it was dead in Illinois. And she went down to Atlanta, and it's just booming, and she's become this, kind of this entrepreneur. There's just a lot going on. Same thing in Houston, and we're killing the opportunity. And you just look at the unemployment rate. You look at the poverty rate. We have the worst poverty rate among those top 15 cities in the country. Why is that? Especially when you got all this, obsession about equity and progressivism. But it's been a disaster for blacks here.
So,
well, also too, I mean, just looking at like black household income, median income of black households in Chicago, it's the third lowest of the 15 big cities you looked at. But other cities have Dem politicians in charge: L.A., Houston. In fact, most of them do. New York and Austin.
Denver.
And yet their black residents there, household income is higher. Median household income is higher there. Unemployment rate is lower there. So it's one of those things, too, where at some point you have to say not only is it this party, but it's the particular varietals of this party in this city and in this state. That's what the residents have to understand.
Yeah, it's toxic stuff, and what's also fascinating is that like you mentioned, you mentioned in Illinois, you mentioned like Georgia or Alabama or Houston, Texas, right? And they're so dismissive, racist states, whatever. Well, that's where the blacks do far better. You look at the Atlanta MSA, the metropolitan area. It's got growth at almost 2.5 times Chicago's. You look at Houston, 3 times the growth rate. That's where the opportunities are, because those cities and those areas grow. I mean, they have growing populations, growing investment. Companies are moving there, and it thrives for anybody, not just blacks. But that's where blacks can actually now go. They leave Illinois, they leave Chicago, and they go find something better. And it's sad because we talk about it all the time. This is a great city, great state, and yet people can't find their opportunity here.
Now, Ted, in 3 days, something seismic might happen. Stacey Davis Gates is up for re-election. A woman, now she ran a deficit with the CTU. She didn't pay her own taxes or utilities, and she sent her son to private school. Do you think that's enough to make her challenger take her top spot?
Yeah, I have to say I haven't followed it, but while those things that you mentioned are important, Amy, I think she delivered this massive pay increase and job increase and all that for her members. So they might reward her for what she's done. Now, if you ask me, she and Brandon Johnson have helped bring bankruptcy to CPS sooner than we might think, and I think things are pretty bad there. We just don't know it yet, given all those expenses. But she delivered. Sadly, she delivered for her teachers, but she may have destroyed education and taxes and kids in the process. But I don't see why she wouldn't get reelected.
Well, I don't see either. I don't pay attention to it, because what's the difference? I mean,
right.
Right?
Yeah.
So the next marks us up. What's
Erica
the difference?
Meza.
You tell. So is there a difference?
Same red shirt, same everything.
Yeah, precisely. But one of the things you haven't factored in is the exciting news about the green social housing projects that are coming to, the Loop. That's a big $1.25 billion fund to build green social housing. Have you factored that into the city's renaissance?
I don't know. It's probably one of the things that scares me the most, that I spent the least time on. Giving these bureaucrats, that much money to create more mess. I mean, every time they're given that much power to try to do something, quote, good, it's become a disaster. And to do more housing of the type that they've done, it's been destructive in the past, and I see there being no reason why this isn't destructive as well.
Ted Dabrowski, President Wirepoints, wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related. Thanks, Ted.
Thank you, guys.
And Dan, real quickly, the person challenging Stacey Davis Gates told Fox 32, I think our leadership is very obsessed with politics. Oh, really? We'll keep an eye on that one. All right, and Ted joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Can you afford not to have effective video surveillance? Is your outdoor inventory at risk? Theft and vandalism can hit your bottom line hard. Stop these events before they happen. Monitor your business 24/7 with alarm detection systems. We prevent crime with live operators watching video